This is unequivocally the most important video of this course. We're going to ingrain the two most important skills when it comes to vision in League of Legends into your skulls. These two skills by themselves will single-handedly dramatically improve your play and subsequently your elo. If you've ever wondered what you can do about bad teammates, this is one of the few things you can do to directly impact your team's decision-making and play. If you watch the introductory video in this course, you should be on board with the idea that vision is one of, if not the most important aspect of League of Legends. If you didn't, go watch it. You will be surprised by the overwhelming support this statement has among top players. So it naturally follows that if vision is at the foundation of improvement in climbing, then skills associated with vision are some of the most important skills to hone in the game. We're going to teach you what the skills are, how to practice them, and even how to monitor yourself to ensure you are quickly improving them over time. If you take this seriously, we guarantee noticeable results. This is as close as it will ever get to a magic bullet for improving quickly in this game, so take this seriously. Alright, let's learn. The first skill is very straightforward. In fact, they both are. The first skill you must create concrete, consistent habits around is laying wards down. Yes, you heard me right. The first skill is literally putting a ward on the map, but more importantly, doing it a lot every game. In this video, we don't even care where yet. A huge part of the rest of this course will be exactly when and where, which will also help you build this habit, but you need to remember that it always comes down to warding frequently throughout every game. If you don't necessarily know the best place at any point in time, don't worry about it. Pick a spot that seems good and do it. Well, my fellow Rifter, I'm saying this because we studied the data, and if you aren't already at least Platinum, but more so Diamond and above, we know that you do not put enough wards down. If you do constantly ward and you are not at least Platinum, then you are the exception to the rule and you should assume you are the chosen one. How are we so sure of this? Luckily, we can access people's warding habits through Riot's API. This isn't news actually. Riot themselves even made a post a while ago letting people know they didn't ward nearly as much as high elo. This post is incredibly insightful. You'll see trends of wards laid, as well as trinket choice distribution related to elo and more. We linked it in the description so you could study it, which we do recommend doing. We'll spare you the boring data, but the takeaway is that there is a direct correlation between the number of wards purchased and laid in a game and rank. Anytime you see something directly correlated with rank, you should really give a shit about it. From this day forward, we will always refer to the idea of consciously increasing the number of wards you lay down in a game as the warding habit. The warding habit coincides with another habit called the sweeping habit. 5 times more wards are cleared in Diamond and up than are cleared in Bronze and Silver. We'll talk about sweeping later in the course as it tends to become more role specific. Laying wards is definitely not role specific and will give you benchmarks for what you should be doing every game based on your role. Another habit that directly relates to upping your ward laying numbers per game, or your warding habit, is buying control wards. We have an entire video dedicated to answering all of your control ward questions in this course, role by role. Okay, so now you probably agree that laying lots of wards is really important. Why? Because every high elo player lays more wards than every low elo player, and the data backs it up. However, just knowing this is not enough. We coached fellow skill cap members on this by giving them this information, but then didn't see them implementing it into their play when we watched their games. That makes sense though. Knowing you need to lay more doesn't remind you to do it in the middle of a game when tons of stuff is going on around you. That's what the rest of this course is for. Not this video, the course. We're going to give you tons of triggers to know when and where you should ward at any point in time, so you start building the habits necessary to ward without even thinking about it. We're going to look at each role individually throughout each stage of the game and talk about triggers that will remind you exactly when you should be warding and where. By associating the habit of warding with certain events in game, you will naturally start laying more wards. The goal is to make your warding habit a muscle memory when events in the game happen. For now, we are just establishing that this is one of the 2 skills we will be building in this course. Okay, step 1 complete. We know you're going to go out there and ward your little heart out. And just to reiterate, you will be learning when and where to obtain and clear vision throughout the rest of this course. The second skill is how you actually get value out of the first skill, so listen closely. A ward does you no good if you do not actually look at it. If you don't constantly check the minimap to see if someone's on it or going through it, it will offer you literally no value. The reason the number of wards correlate with elo is because people in high elo actually use vision the ward provides. When they don't have the vision, they lay another ward to get it, and then they constantly use it. Here's a textbook example we see all the time in low elo. This Heimer is mindlessly farming, randomly decides to drop a ward, but isn't actually looking at the minimap. If he had glanced even once, he would have noticed just off screen his jungler was battling for his life. Only when the jungler starts to ping for help does the Heimer look up. How useful is vision if you aren't utilizing it? Constantly glancing at your minimap by itself will dramatically increase the first skill because you'll notice when you don't have vision. Let's back up though. Skill number 2 is constantly checking your minimap throughout the entire game. From this moment forward, we will be referring to this skill as your minimap habit. We actually have an entire course dedicated to this habit because it's a vital habit even outside of vision. But before we talk about implementation, let's acknowledge that these 2 skills sound basic, and they are fairly basic skills. It's not a matter of knowing or not knowing. It purely comes down to how consistently you do these things. That's what you need to constantly work on. We'll talk about benchmarks you should strive for next. For now, let's just talk about all of the valuable things this skill offers. Number 1 is that you will be constantly on the lookout for numero uno, yourself. If you have a ward down in your lane and are glancing down at the minimap constantly, you will spot that gank coming in early and you will simply walk away. No more will that jungler walk through your ward and kill you before you saw him. No more will it be your teammates' fault when they did not call an MIA. Simply put, you are going to die to ganks and roams way less often. By constantly looking at the map, you also will help your teammates who probably aren't looking at the map enough, and you can ping them. The combination of you being proactive with vision and watching the vision will let you significantly impact people's safety and decision making throughout a game. I hope you heard me. Remember all of those games where you had shit teammates? Wonder how high elo players tend to not have quite as shitty teammates, especially when they smurf in your elo? It's because they ward, and then they tell their team what they need to hear by watching those wards. It's not a cure, but it drastically reduces the symptoms of bad teammate disease. Also, by laying vision, your teammates will actually notice things every once in a while themselves, and in the rare instance you don't see something, which will be super rare because you are taking this course, they may alert you because of your wards. Another great aspect of this habit is that you will see amazing opportunities you otherwise wouldn't have. Enemies crossing wards you can go kill, a fight breaking out you can respond to that your enemy can't, great teleport opportunities, and more. You'll even start seeing subtle things like where the jungler is and where he's headed a lot, when people go missing, when fights are breaking out, and more. It's so valuable to glance at the minimap. We hear questions in the community all the time that essentially all ask, what can I do about bad teammates? This is literally one of the few things you can do about bad teammates. Give them more information and you will notice them all becoming less bad. But skill capped, what does that even mean? How often do you actually expect us to look at it? Great question, hypothetical viewer. Whoa. What if no one watches this video? Does it even exist? Does this question even exist? Do I exist without viewers? Oh, God, sorry. Anyway, how often do we expect you to look at your minimap? The frequency you use your minimap is all that matters with this skill. Let's listen to what one of the dozens of challengers we work with has to say about this skill.
I check it every 2 seconds, is what I would say. That's the lowest I can go without it sounding like every single second, because you need to be looking at it literally as much as possible. So I'd say just every 2 seconds, constantly look at it. Every CS, look at it. Like, constantly need to look at it.
Yeah, well, that's just like, your opinion, man.
Well, no. On top of interviewing challengers, we actually conducted a study on the matter while researching and creating the Minimap Habit course. We had about a dozen players between bronze and gold, and a handful of challengers upload their games to us with Facecam recorded. Using heat mapping software, we counted the number of times they glanced or used the minimap throughout the game. We found that with challengers, what they said lined up closely with what they actually do. Challengers looked at their minimap somewhere between every 3 and every 6 seconds, depending on what was going on. They never, ever went more than 10 seconds or so without looking at the map, even during team fights and intense trades and battles. Is that surprising to you? Probably. It was surprising to most people we talked with. So how do low elo players stack up? Probably how you expected. The best person we watched was just over 20 seconds per glance on average, and averages went upwards of 30 to 40 seconds. In extreme cases, people basically never looked at their minimap all game. This is just a couple of challengers though, right? Every high elo player doesn't actually use the minimap that often. Wrong. We've had the pleasure of working with upwards of 400 people between Diamond 1 and Challenger over the last couple of years, and every single one of them at some point voiced how much importance they put on religiously watching the minimap. Building this habit initially will be uncomfortable. It will be a little painful. However, the value you will gain from it is immeasurable. Actually, you can measure it. It will be measured in your elo gains and your own feeling of control and awareness compared to when you didn't religiously watch the map. At this point, talking about implementation will be an inefficient use of everyone's time. Rather, if you haven't watched our Minimap Habit course and really focused on implementing it, you should prioritize it right after you've made sizable progress with this course. Why? Because like I said earlier, wards and vision have no value if you aren't constantly monitoring them, and the Minimap Habit is exactly how you do that, among other amazingly useful things you will learn in that course. We will link it in the description when it's available on the site. If you stopped right here in the course and just practiced consistently laying wards and looking at the minimap to use the vision you've laid, you will dramatically improve as a player. The only way you wouldn't is if you already did both of these things at a challenger level. However, the beauty of the journey you are embarking on with this course is that you aren't going to stop here. The vast majority of the rest of this course is going to give you specific information on exactly when and where you should be warding at every stage of the game based on the role you're playing and how the game is going. As we've said, this course is the end-all definitive guide to mastering vision in League of Legends. With that being said, this video exists to make sure that you know that all of the knowledge we are about to drop on you comes back to these two skills. It doesn't matter if you know exactly when and where to ward at all times. If you aren't actually doing it consistently and constantly monitoring it, you will not see good gains. At the end of each section, we'll teach you how to review your own games to make sure that you're building these two skills. Always remember, knowing and not doing is the same as not knowing. Let us know if this guide helped you understand what you're about to learn and practice by leaving a review. And if you have any questions at all, leave them in the questions section. Now, pick up the role you want to master vision in first, and